Hello, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to a brand new video here on the Esports Talk channel. Today we're going to talk all about the Treyarch exposed video. I'm going to link some stuff down below for all of you guys. As of course, if you guys have been following the story, we have a bit of a follow-up from that story a couple days ago that did start about 5 days ago. That being a Reddit poster out there known as Call of Nobody Cares. Eventually did delete his post as well as his Reddit account, but we actually did. Again, I'll link some stuff down below for all of you who want to read the original post out there. It actually predicted a bunch of things happening in Call of Duty. Alongside that, some things that happened a couple days ago, and that's why we're posting this video, because it does seem pretty much confirmed whoever he was, or who she was, we're going to assume as of right now, based off context, it did seem to be like a he. He is now a former employee of Treyarch. If you guys read into the article whatsoever, apparently working there for 2 years before he was actually fired out of nowhere because he took his lunch break at the wrong time. So again, everything you need to know will be linked down below. As of a couple days ago, another thing he did predict actually came true, that being the return of Speed Cola. That's the third thing. He also predicted storylines for the Viking boat Easter egg. Alongside that, some audio lines for Samantha from Crooked Man. Pretty much everything he has said, or most of the stuff he did say and answering questions in that post, actually did come true, or eventually most likely will come true. And then the return of Speed Cola, he also did predict that as well. So we're going to assume, just for the integrity of this video, he probably was a worker for Treyarch and no longer is. Well, again, without proof though, he didn't post any exact proof about this. We can only go off the information he posted, and alongside that, Treyarch not responding to the story altogether, we cannot deny that what he said is not true. So again, this all happened just 5 days ago, a follow-up story about a couple days ago, because he did actually get Speed Cola correct on top of the other things he did predict. To give you guys a little bit of background as well, kind of a really sad post, because again, with Treyarch not reposting a response whatsoever about this, we really can't deny if what he said was true, or if it was just a rumor, if it was just some random Redditor out there who had information and wanted to tie a story to it. You know, he got a couple leaks here and there and then wanted to make a funny post about it and act like he was intoxicated and eventually just delete the post no matter what. If this story does reign true though, let's keep it the context we were given. He was actually working for Treyarch apparently for 2 years in the quality assurance department for zombies. So he was actually testing bugs for zombies, and allegedly, according to himself, was actually the #1 on the team for reporting the most bugs for zombies. So again, he worked there for 2 years. Apparently had also driven across the entire country and was sleeping in his car for 2 years to work for Treyarch. So I guess based off context, again, what we can assume here, he probably worked in the California Treyarch Studios office, which means of course very expensive living. It would make sense if he, again, because it sounded kind of extreme for a guy to be living out of his car and working for Treyarch for 2 years. You know, what are they paying him? But again, in California living, it's very, very expensive. So that might make a bit of sense. But what really does not make sense about the story, and I'm sure you guys can assume here, he worked there for 2 years, was allegedly one of the better bug reporters on this quality assurance team, and he was actually fired for apparently taking the long lunch break. So he gives this to us very short and sweet, guys. He was actually working a 2 p.m. to a 2 a.m. shift, and they gave him lunch or dinner break at 5 p.m. originally. At 5:15, he was told his lunch break or dinner break would be moved back to 6 p.m. He took his corresponding lunch break at 6 p.m. He came back to his desk at 7 and was then actually fired from his job. So again, this seems so extreme, right? Something does not seem right about this, and that's where the lack of proof really kind of confuses everyone in the story. Like I said, the original post was then deleted, and we have not heard from either him or Treyarch ever since. And we had Optimus, other YouTubers about to talk about this. It just doesn't add up to me, right? You have a very seemingly good worker working there for a long period of time, 2 years, and also living out of his car, some pretty dire circumstances there. For him to be laid off out of nowhere, especially for missing a lunch break, does not seem to add up. So until he responds, or Treyarch even touches on this, they have not responded to any Reddit allegations so far, even on Twitter, which I'm sure they can just avoid this controversy by simply not saying anything. We have heard a lot of things in the past about Treyarch and how they treat their employees. This is not the first post about this, which obviously does not shine a very good light on them. Of course, if one of your employees, your full-time employees, who's been working for you for 2 years, is still living in his car, maybe you're not paying them very well. Maybe that was his own choice. Again, a lot of these details are only in such a small context. But again, very lastly as well, if this does reign true, he did say one thing that really stuck out to me in the post. He did make sure to tell us the good details about when he came back to his desk, taking the long lunch break an hour earlier than he was supposed to, and he was then fired. He did actually say this, guys: "They just tossed me away like a piece of trash. The quality assurance employee with the most issues reported, and the only employee who plays the game outside of work, all because they wanted to keep retroactively pushing our lunch break back. Yes, they fired me because I clocked out for my lunch break at the time they told me to go, but they changed their mind after I already went on my break. It's completely ludicrous. They even called security on me because I refused to leave without my personal belongings. They actually refused to give me my personal belongings at first. They finally gave my belongings and said to each other, 'What's the loss to us?' Wow, just wow. And one last thing, if you really look into what he said in that last paragraph, I can put it up here for you guys again. It did say they changed their minds while he was on his break. It's completely ludicrous. And so by that context, it almost makes it seem as if he was on his lunch break. Of course, originally at 5, he took it at 6 because that's the new time they planned. He then said in that paragraph they had changed their minds while he was already on his break, and then they fired him when he got back to his desk. It almost seems as if he was on his lunch break and they came out and said, hey, we pushed back your lunch break, and he might have then refused to go back altogether. That's the only reason. If this guy was so stubborn about the lunch break being pushed back several times, like he alluded to in other details of this context, like that they've been pushing it back several times in the past, and this was his breaking point, and he was like, no, I'm eating lunch at 6 right now, and he maybe refused to go back inside. That's the only reason I could possibly see a manager actually firing this guy, because again, if he had no idea, it's just kind of a confusing thing to actually try and, of course, take context out of, because he has yet to respond to his own post, eventually deleted it as well. And again, like I said several times before, Treyarch has no comment about it. So what it seems like from the outside perspective is that a guy took a lunch break at the wrong time and Treyarch fired him, but what it could be delving into it is a guy refusing to come back from lunch break, although he was told the lunch break was changing, and maybe that was just one of many contingencies or one of many things he'd actually done wrong on the job. We will never know the mystery of Treyarch Exposed.